Section 19, Property Management. There are two parts. Part 1 talks about an unwritten lease is a tenancy at will. Termination of a tenancy at will. Holding over becomes a tenancy at sufferance. Right of possession upon default in rent. Landlord's lien for the rent. Distress for rental, trial, verdict, and judgment. Causes for eviction, waiver the right to proceed with an eviction claim, and removal of the tenant and judgment. Part 2 discusses the landlord's statutory duties, the tenant's statutory duties, tenant's remedies for breach by landlord, tenant's security deposits and advance rent, landlord's right to enter the premises during a lease term, and eviction proceedings. A manager of a single-family home or duplex must provide working smoke detectors. Manager of a dwelling other than a single-family home or duplex must provide pest control, lock and keys, clean and safe common areas, garbage removal, heat, and hot water. The landlord may enter the premises to inspect, make repairs, or show the apartment, and give 12 hours notice unless it's a bona fide emergency. When a tenant vacates the premises, the landlord must return the deposit within 15 days or notify the tenant within 30 days of the intent to retain a portion or all of the deposit. If the landlord fails to notify the tenant, they cannot keep the deposit. When property is being managed by a broker, the broker is the single agent of the absentee owner. Deposits and rents are trust funds. Sales associates must deliver the funds to the broker within 1 business day. Broker must deposit the fund into the broker's escrow account within 3 business days. And the broker may place up to $5,000 of what I call buffer money, personal funds, buffer money, into the property management escrow account to cover certain losses and expenditures so that the trust money is not used, because that would be conversion. Federal laws concerning property management, Fair Housing, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. So with fair housing, you have the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which protects against racial discrimination. And the Fair Housing Act of 1968 prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, or familial status. Americans with Disability Act prohibits discrimination in employment. Public and common use portions of dwellings must be readily accessible and usable. The types of management are property management firms, in-house management staff, and brokers management. So property management firms is where the brokerage firm specializes in management. High levels of professional expertise. In-house management staff. Large companies hire and train their own staff. And then brokers often manage properties they sell. They set up a property management division. When regarding property management, licensing requirements, these are the folks that are exempt from licensing. That would be persons who rent their own properties, employees of corporations renting corporate property that are paid by a salary, salaried employees who work in an on-site office, salaried managers of condominiums who rent units for periods for no longer than 1 year, persons who rent properties for transient occupancy under FS 509, and persons renting lots in mobile home parks. Property management markets include office buildings, retail stores, and residential properties, single-family, multifamily, condominium, and vacation rentals. Community associations, residential homeowners association in which a membership is required, are authorized to impose a fee that may become a lien on the property. The community association is defined to have more than 10 units or a budget greater than $100,000. Manager of the community association must be licensed with the DBPR. Evaluating the rental market. You have the regional market analysis, which looks at the demographic and economic information. The neighborhood market analysis shows the boundaries in land use, transportation facilities, the economy, and the supply and demand. And then you have neighborhood amenities and facilities. Property analysis includes exterior inspection, interior inspection, and compare it with competing properties. For your exterior, you're checking for deferred maintenance. Your interior, estimating for redecorating and replacement expenses. And then you compare the unit sizes, amenities, and condition. There are different ways to advertise: signs and billboards, internet and social media, newspapers, apartment guides, broadcast media, and direct mail. When showing the property, qualifying the prospect, you're going to have an application, a credit report, rental references to make sure they're compatible, stable, and financially able to pay. Then you want to create an interest and desire, so don't show too many units. Give the prospect time to inspect the property as well. And then handling objections. Valid objections means to show another unit. Sometimes objection is simply a negotiating tool. Tenant policies in relation to complaints, tenant relations. Make sure they understand the rules and regulations and communicate them clearly. Most common complaint is service request. Provide prompt service if it's the owner's responsibility. If it's not the owner's responsibility, tell the tenant immediately. Noise, parking, and sanitation also rank high on the list of complaints. When the tenant fails to pay the rent, landlord gives a 3-day notice to vacate. Landlord gives written notice to vacate. They may not change the locks, remove doors, turn off utilities, all that kind of stuff. Can't do it. The landlord needs to file a complaint in the court, and then after getting a final judgment, the landlord gets a writ of possession to have the sheriff evict the tenant. Standard lease clauses include terms and parties, address and list of appliances and furniture, rent payment amount and frequency, deposits, advance rent and late charges, use of premises, maintenance, utilities, and default. Maintenance programs helps to ensure physical integrity, such as structural elements as the roof and exterior walls, functional performance, HVAC, plumbing, electrical systems, house cleaning, clean and well maintained, merchandising, carpet replacement, decorating, and landscaping. You must have an operating budget when you're accounting and record keeping, and the manager must organize the records, retain the records, keep license records, maintain equipment warranties, and retain escrow account reconciliations. Next is rent management. You need to identify the risk by inspecting the property. You need to avoid the risk. For example, no aggressive dogs and remove diving boards. You must control the risk. That would include security patrol, stair rails and safety glasses, and transferring the risk by buying insurance, using outside contractors, and hold harmless agreements. In reference to property insurance, the manager should check for insurance policies that's going to cover fire, flood, theft, loss of income, workers' compensation, and commercial auto liability. The property manager should be named as an additional insured in the owner's insurance. Items to be concerned with the owner and the manager relationship is the management agreement, compensation for services, personal communications, and evaluating management performance. Rental list and information. If rental information provided under a contract is not current or accurate, the consumer may demand within 30 days of the contract date a return of the entire fee. If the consumer does not obtain a rental, they are entitled to 75% of the fee paid if the demand is made within 30 days of the contract date. Failure to provide accurate and current rental information for a fee is a first-degree misdemeanor. This is the conclusion for Day 5.